As Conrad's 26.
Madam President, I ask consent that the clerk read the entire text of the resolution.
Without objection.
As Conrad's 26, apologizing for the enslavement and racial segregation of African Americans.
I feel so much better now. The United States Senate has recently passed a resolution that apologizes for slavery. I'm not exactly sure what people are supposed to do with this information. You know, folks who share my approximate skin color. Are you supposed to, oh, I don't know, party, celebrate, hug somebody white?
Hey, where are the white women at?
Do black Americans really need another apology from the government 146 years after Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation that freed African slaves? Let me offer a not-so-bold thought, one that I'm sure many of you may share. No, we do not. Not only are the majority of black Americans solidly middle class, for the vast majority of black people, especially young folks, slavery is nothing more than a distant cultural touchstone during Black History Month. Not only does the nation not need this apology, we didn't need the others as well, and there have certainly been a few. When President Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation 146 years ago, he remarked, "I never in my life felt more certain that I was doing the right thing." Not exactly an apology, but certainly good enough for me. Nonetheless, last year the House issued a resolution apologizing for slavery. One congresswoman said the resolution represented a milestone in our nation's efforts to remedy the ills of the past. Oh, really? Madam Congresswoman, exactly how did a non-binding resolution pull this off? Prior to the House resolution, during an extended visit to Africa in 1998, President Clinton acknowledged the damage of slavery and expressed his personal sense of shame and disgust over its historical existence. When he became president, George Bush visited the old slave fort on Goree Island and called slavery one of the greatest crimes in history. And yes, Congress has issued an apology before. It did so to the Japanese for their internment during World War II. However, let's be clear. This apology was made to Japanese who were alive at the time of the apology, who suffered the indignity of being rounded up and housed against their will. However, there's not a single black person alive today who might benefit from an apology for slavery. The last American who actually lived as a slave died many years ago. Eliza Moore, the last American to have been a slave, died in 1948. He was 105 years old. So exactly what is the point of apologizing to Americans for whom slavery is only a remote historical reference from politicians who obsess over political correctness? Frankly, it serves no purpose other than to fan the flames of racial victimization and perhaps open the door to claims for slavery reparations. If you think I've gone a step or two too far, listen to what this Congressional Black Caucus member said about the Senate's resolution. Along with other members of the Black Caucus, Representative Benny Thompson expressed his concerns over the Senate's action. Since there is a disclaimer in the resolution that appears to argue against claims for reparations, the Black Caucus member said, putting in a disclaimer takes away from the meaning of an apology. In other words, where's my 40 acres and my mule? Perhaps update would be a sizable check from the government combined with a mansion in the Atlanta suburbs and maybe a Lexus SUV. Longtime reparations activist Randall Robinson weighed in, saying the Senate resolution constitutes a confession that will aid the process of acquiring reparations. But to get back to the main issue, why do some think an apology is needed when the enactment of the 13th Amendment rendered slavery illegal? Not enough of an apology?
Now the time has come for this nation to fulfill its promise. The events in Birmingham and elsewhere have so increased the cries for equality that no city or state or legislative body can prudently choose to ignore them.
What was the 1964 Civil Rights Act and 1965 Voting Rights Act all about, if not an effort to right a nation that had lost its bearings, some argue its very soul, through slavery and discriminatory Jim Crow laws? Moreover, the nation fought a civil war over the issue that nearly tore the nation apart and resulted in more than 500,000 killed or wounded. Some could rightly argue the nation has apologized in blood. But there is a larger and more troubling issue at hand. Why do those who want to perpetually hold the American nation's feet to the fire for its involvement in the international slave trade, not also ask for apology from the Muslim and Arab nations that facilitate the slave trade and continue to engage in enslavement and oppression of African people as I speak these words? Can you say Darfur? America remains an imperfect experiment. Despite its flaws and historical atrocities, it is a nation, as Lincoln once remarked, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. No apologies are needed.